Hello everyone, this is Mayor Joel Villarreal coming to you from the Kelsey Bass Museum here in beautiful downtown Rio Grande City. Today I am honored to be part of a project that highlights the incredible lives and stories of some of our community's veterans. Although each of these men served in the U.S. military, maybe even in the same military branch, their experiences and stories are as different as night and day. Regardless of these differences, each of these stories is a part of the great tapestry that makes our community and country not only incredible, but also unique. I hope these stories will help you have a greater appreciation for our veterans and the sacrifices they made for you and me.
The Kelsey Bass Museum is honored to have had Mr. Arturo Garza come in for an interview today. He is one of the last of our World War II veterans, which are called the greatest generation, and there's a reason for that. These men were called to duty out of nowhere, of their little sleepy towns, and called to go in places far, far away to go and defend the ideals of the American way of life. Mr. Garza was drafted in 1944.
We had a training first at Camp Hood, the tank destroyers, because they were fixed to send us over to Europe. And then the war sort of faded out over there, and we got transferred out of Camp Hood to Camp Swift, Texas, close to Bastrop. And we went in another outfit. We went into a chemical war service army support group. So we trained for light artillery, mortars, and stuff like that to support the infantry troops up ahead. And after training at Camp Swift, I went to Camp Stoneman, California, where we got shipped overseas.
And he was sent to the Philippines, where he was till 1946.
They had what they called the monsoon weather. It rained maybe sometimes 2-3 times a day, and sometimes maybe more. Mm-hmm. And every time you got some dry clothes on, you had to change it again if you had it. And we stayed in Mindanao till the end of the war, and then we came back to Luzon, mm-hmm. to Manila, and just do odd jobs like guard duty and take care of your prisoners.
Yes.
And on down the line.
And Mr. Garza, thankfully, is still with us, and he's as spry as ever, and he is always willing to talk about his time in the service and how much he loves his country. He loves God, he loves his country, he loves his family, and he loves his city.
Like the saying says, we put a little grain of sand in the pot, and we're glad that we could serve our country. It was an honor to be able to do so, and for me to sit here today with you all, thinking about such things.
My name is Martin Carrion. I'm a sergeant first class. I served in the Army for 20 years, from 62 to 84. I enlisted in 1962 due to no jobs. I got tired of working in the field. So I joined the service tentatively, knowing that I would probably be not accepted since I'm blind in one eye. But my grades were so high that the Army accepted me, and I enlisted for 3 years, thinking about getting out in 3 years. And then I re-enlisted for 3 more years, and after that I fell in love with military life, and I just stayed in for 22 years. My first station was in Fort Lee, Virginia. After that I went to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. After that to Kansas, Fort Riley, when they activated the 9th Infantry Division, which we ended up in Vietnam. I was in Vietnam for 13 months. Thank God I made it back. I was assigned to California, a beautiful post in California. And then after that, I wanted to come to Fort Sam Houston. And due to a mistake, somebody saw Fort Sam Houston and they assigned me to Houston, the recruiting station in downtown Houston, which was great. I was there for 7 years, I think 5 years. Then they were going to send me to Washington, D.C., and I didn't want to get out. I didn't want to go to Washington, D.C., so they assigned me to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, which was the best I had because I was in a helicopter company. We used to fly all over the place. You know. After that, they sent me back to Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio, where I served out the last of my enlistment. I was an instructor and X-ray technician at the hospital and stuff. So I had very good assignments in the service. I made rank very quickly, so I was never given, bad assignments or anything like that. So, and by then I was a single parent. I had my 2 boys with me. So, great. They really learned from that experience. My 2 boys are Army brats. What really stands out is that being a medic, to the guys that you take, unfortunately, when the battle starts, as far as they're concerned, you're God. They think you can do anything for them. And unfortunately, some don't make it, and those really, really affect you. I'm pretty sure I had a hand in saving thousands. Yet I lost 5, and those are the ones that haunt me. But I was in the Mekong Delta on the river boats. We practically went out every week on an operation. Yeah. We stayed out sometimes 3-4 days. Yeah. And it's something I don't wish on anybody. That's why when somebody sees something and says, "Oh, it's like a war zone out there," I just kind of laugh. I said, "You have no idea, no idea." But I was all over the Mekong Delta, the southern part of Vietnam. It was an experience that still affects me. And most of us guys, like, if you ever talk to Mr. Guerra, you'll notice the same thing you're noticing in me. We did what we could, and I got exposed to Agent Orange real bad, which is what finally gave me my disability. And that's about that, really, we don't really like to remember any of that stuff, Sometimes we have to, but we just don't like to, Well, the Houston recruiting office, the thing I remember is that I was there when Muhammad Ali came in and take his exam. And I remember that I cursed him up and down because he wouldn't take it. Yet years later, I realized that he was really serious about his religion. And I always said, if I ever meet him, I'm going to apologize. And great man, but at that time, I didn't go for that. I don't know if you're familiar with the statue of the flag raising of Iwo Jima.
Yes.
Bueno, Harlem Block from Weslaco is the guy in the very bottom.
Yes.
And
I've always known that story.
right.
There's one,
I gave the physical to his nephew in Houston too. And when I saw his name, I said, "You wouldn't be from Weslaco?" And he says, "Yes." And I said, "Are you related?" And he goes, "Yes, he was my uncle." You know, and so I called the Marines downstairs and I said, "Do you know who you have here?" And they rushed upstairs. They hadn't even paid attention to it, you know. Wow. So I always wonder whatever became of him, you know, because, you know. But stories, they're all over. I was stationed all over. There's some good stories. While I was stateside, there was never any bad stories, you know.
Oh, that's wonderful.
You know, I was on orders for Germany, and I didn't really want to go because my dad was real sick, and I was doing X-rays on Representative Henry B. Gonzalez from San Antonio. I got to know him very well, you know, and I just mentioned it that, you know, I just didn't want to go. And I remember before he left, you know, he gave me a hug and he said, "You're not going." And I said, "Sir?" He says, "You're not going." 3 days later, I get the thing, it said, "Orders canceled." You know, so I had some real nice experiences, you know. The only limiting factor in the service is you. You know, I learned everything, you know, without going to college. I would go to college just for the basics, but everything else I learned from the service. I was an X-ray technician. I was a nurse. I was a lab tech. All of that taught by the service. If you want to join because of that, fine. Like I said, first and foremost, because you love your country. But don't feel like the country owes you something.
My name is Alfonso C. Rubio III. I was in the U.S. Navy for 4 years, and when I was discharged, honorably discharged, I was an Operations Specialist 3rd Class, an E3, which basically is a radar operator on the anti-submarine warfare ship USS Arthur W. Radford. Me and my brother Albert joined in 1982. We were in the Navy for 4 years, so we got out July '86. To begin with, when we went to boot camp, we went to San Diego. We were there for 8 weeks. I was able to get an A school, which is the Operations Specialist School, and they sent me directly to Dam Neck, Virginia, which is outside of Norfolk, Virginia. And my brother stayed in San Diego, went to a firefighting school. So I went to Operations Specialist A school for 13 weeks, and then after that I went home for 2 weeks and then went back to my ship, which was the Radford. Well, we always had missions, training, deployments. We did do 3 deployments to the Mediterranean, one of which was into the Persian Gulf during the time that Iraq was shooting Scud missiles into the Persian Gulf. The one that I do remember was rather dangerous. We were anchored off of Naples, spending some time there, and overnight the Marines in Beirut, Lebanon, on the beach were bombed. There was 2 trucks with full of explosives that ran the gates and tried to kill as many as they could. They didn't kill, but a trip that usually takes 3 days to go across the Mediterranean took us a day and a half. We were at full speed. When we got there, we were shooting into the mountains behind Beirut, up where all the terrorists were hiding. We shot our 5-inch cannons. We have 2 for about 12 hours nonstop. In the beginning, it was getting used to being on the ocean, underway. We hit a bad storm once, and it was just all of us were seasick and didn't feel good unless we were laying down horizontal. And that lasted for about a week before we got used to it. And after that, any little waves or a small storm was nothing. The food was really good. They fed us very well all the time. The cooks were really good. It would range from roast to meatloaf to lobster to steak. We even had fried rabbit one time. It was really good. Always stopped in the different ports to pick up fresh produce and bread. So it was one of my first experiences to eating ciabatta bread. in a hamburger or for a hamburger, which was a different experience. We had game rooms, we had video rooms where we could sit and watch movies, and we had one deck that went around the whole ship where you could run around and do exercise, jogging, so which I did a lot of. I liked jogging at the time. But there was always something to do. If it was for pleasure, we had a workout room. We would work out also, and or we had and of course we had work. My team, when we were underway, it was a group of us, and they'd split us up into two teams, port and starboard, and we would go up and work for 8 hours, and after 8 hours we'd trade, and we'd go either to bed because it was 7 a.m. in the morning, and had to go back to work at 3, and we'd sleep, get up, eat lunch or whatever, and then go to work for 8 hours. So we were around the clock all the time. We had been in port doing maintenance, cleaning, and trainings, and we got a message once that we had to get underway for some war games, for some exercises, and we went up to the North Atlantic, where we met up with our carrier group, and we did some exercises back and forth. Our job was to find submarines, so we were patrolling around looking for submarines, using all the equipment on the ship, sonar and radar, and we were up there for about a week. We saw whales, we saw icebergs. It was very cold. After we left, we came back home to Norfolk. We found out that Reagan had been in Iceland, in Reykjavik, and that him and Gorbachev were there. So we were there protecting our president, but we didn't know. And that always stuck in my mind, that it was we had a real purpose, and we didn't know. So that's the way it was in military. You knew if you had a need to know. We went to the Persian Gulf for a deployment, 6-month deployment, and our base was on a small island, the Kingdom of Bahrain, and they were very clear on how we had to behave in public. There's no drinking allowed in public. The only places that sell alcohol, beer and wine, were American hotels, and you could only drink them in the bar. You could not even go to your room to have a drink. But they always urged us to be respectful of the culture there. Do not speak to women that were covered, because they were I don't want to say property, but they belonged to somebody else. You just didn't go do that, and you definitely didn't act drunk or anything, because you could get arrested, and it's just, you just had to be very careful. Anywhere you went, you had to be very careful, and you had to be respectful. The ones in Turkey, when we did go to Turkey, they were very clear on how to deal with people in the market squares and in public, because a lot of scammers were around, and they would take your money before you knew it. So they really instructed us on how to behave.
What about in Italy?
Italy was pretty more laid back. You still had, they would, every time we stopped at a port, they would instruct us on respect and how to act in public. But Italy was more relaxed. You could drink in public, or go to, there was bars everywhere and restaurants. So it wasn't such a hazard to drink and be drunk in public. When we went to Nova Scotia, they had instructed us that it was normal for people there. They're very, very friendly. So people, they see you walking, they stop in their car and ask you want to ride? You want to ride? And we're like, a lot of us like, no, it's okay. But that's the way they were in Nova Scotia, in Canada. Very, very friendly people. I would say that the military, and specifically the Navy, because I was in it, it helps you learn discipline. It teaches you responsibility and respect, and it gives you a great sense of patriotism. It helps you grow a love for this country, because I've seen other countries. I've seen many other countries, and they don't compare to the United States. It's so much cleaner, so much better here, and so many more opportunities. And I do recommend the Navy. With the Navy, you can learn skills that you could use in in life after the Navy.
My name's Ricardo Solis. I had the honor of serving in the United States Navy. I was a gunner's mate, petty officer 3rd class. I was able to serve on the USS Nashville LPD-13 as well, and I was stationed in Norfolk, Virginia. My years of service went on from right after high school, from 96 to all the way to 2000, and it was an honor and pleasure in serving my country as I did. I hadn't considered the military. I took a long conversation once with my brother, one of my older brothers, Alejandro Solis. He enlisted in the United States Army a year prior to me. He came and spoke to me in regards to the benefits and the honor and the privilege to be able to serve in the capacity that he had already been experiencing. From there, I was able to lay out all the notes in regards to the fact of why I wanted to serve and what the benefits would be, not only short-term but long-term as well. So my brother Alejandro Solis, Alex, he was one of the ones that pretty much put it into note, and I took it on from there. Not only when I, of course, went on to Norfolk, Virginia, but of course when I went on to Great Lakes, and I got to do my boot camp over there. I had never experienced, of course, the weather, the scenery, or the culture, of course. And going on to Norfolk, Virginia, really laid out the aspect of the difference of atmosphere, the culture, of course, and I was accepted into my band of brothers and sisters very welcomely. So my time in there and my time spent was very well taken in. My ship that I was serving on was on the USS Nashville LPD-13. We were as a transport dock ship. But yes, we got to serve. I did 2 tours of duty, of course, in the Middle East. We got to do, we served on 1 campaign as well, and we did, I have under me over 18 missions that I was able to operate under as well when I was in my term there. So my time spent in as well was, there was no time off, of course, and the operations that we served of course, I take with me, of course, My time in service, it changed me. It changed who I am as of today. It changed the fact of knowing why I was there, and I look back, of course, and I still thank, the Lord, of course, my family for supporting me. I thank my family that I have currently right now. But what stands out for me was the fact of knowing that, serving the U.S. Military in the capacity that I did, and my family, of course, and all my comrades, I feel that what stands out to me was the fact that it will always be one of the most honorable things I've ever done in my life, and if I can push that on, or I can carry a message to any of the individuals that are coming up, I say, serve proudly, serve humbly, and serve and give back to your community as much as you can.
Hello, my name is Joe Adam Horta. I was in the United States Army. I was a specialist infantry. I enlisted 2015 Mother's Day, and I did 3 years active duty, and then the rest I did a reserve. Nobody in my family has ever been military, so I wanted to break that, and I decided that I would be the first to join and to serve my country. I was stationed in Fort Drum, New York, and I was there for 3 years. The first day that I got there, it was 60 or 50 some degrees, and it was too cold. So I had to adapt to it, and every time, the whole 3 years that I was there, I only had 1 summer, so everything else was cold, so I got used to it. I got to my unit, this was around January.
Of what year?
January 2016. And then maybe like a week later, I deployed to Afghanistan. You don't know what to expect. It was a whole bunch of desert, but I mean, me and my brothers, we were able to pull through it. I was I want to say the 2nd or 3rd oldest from my company. So the kids, I mean, I call them kids because they were younger than me. They would come and they would ask me questions and advice, and I would try to steer them in the right direction. So we got to know each other better. Well, there was a lot of stories, but I know the scariest one for me was I was taking some silverware to some of my guys, and all of a sudden, I was going to the defect, and then my other friend was maybe like about 100 feet, and all of a sudden I heard like a whistle, some kind of whistle go over my head, and I'm just looking at it like to see what it was, and then my friend heard it as well. So maybe like a few seconds later, we hear like a bomb drop. So we're like, oh. So we had to like run and bunker down and make sure everybody was safe. Where I was, it was really hot. Like I enjoyed my time here in Rio because it's warm, but it's not as hot as Afghanistan. When I was over there, I mean, I learned to appreciate a lot of stuff. You see people that don't have much, and then you come over here and you wake up and you want to go to the store, you want to go buy something. Not a lot of people have that opportunity. Yeah, every case is different. In my case, I had the opportunity. It was a little bit late for me, but I still joined, and I enjoyed my time. I did a little bit of everything, from infantry to recon to being in the sniper section. So I did a little bit of everything. It was fun for me. I mean, at first it's kind of hard to get adjusted to the customs of the military, but once you get that down, I mean, it's fun. I think one, I love my country. I mean, it has given me everything. I have rights. I think we should be able to take care of our family and our country as much as we can. It's a little bit hard to explain, but it kind of grew into me. Being able to defend my country, being able to be out there and separate from my family for a bit, to be able to give everything for my country. It's a little bit different serving as a police officer, because you have a lot of different procedures, but it's fun. The military, it helps you. It helps you. How can I say it? It helps you prepare for, let's say you want to become a trooper or a PD or a sheriff. The military really prepares you for when you get out, and they have different jobs. Like in my case, it really opened the door for me. If I ever wanted to go federal, I can always apply. I've had federal agencies come and tell me, hey, you know what, you qualify for this and this. The skills you learn from the military, I mean, you can always practice them anywhere. So there are skills that you never lose.
As we approach the Veterans Day holiday, let us remember that it is so much more than the reason for a 3-day weekend. Everything we do, from backyard barbecues, Sunday services, Friday night football games, even watching videos on the internet, is a direct result of the sacrifices of so many. Today, men and women all over the world are away from their families and friends, and possibly in harm's way, to protect freedoms that many of us don't think twice about. American author and news reporter Elmer Davis said it best: "This nation will remain the land of the free only so long as it is the home of the brave." Our military men and women may feel fear at times, but to push past that fear for something greater than ourselves, such as a free and democratic society, well, that is true bravery and the epitome of a U.S. veteran. So this Veterans Day, I challenge you to take a moment to think of some of the many freedoms you enjoy, and say a prayer for our veterans, past and present, who gave so much for all of us. With the great city of Rio Grande City, this is Joel Villarreal. God bless you God bless our veterans, and God bless the United States of America.